And there you have it, Sam. I think we've
cracked the code.
Well, in our own way, we've tried. I think we've cracked the code.
We've cracked the code, man. Giving away the sauce for free.
Yo, what's up and welcome to episode 98 of the 30% podcast, hosted by yours truly, Afamefuna, and my amazing partner in crime. He is the Bonnie to my Clyde.
All right. Okay. I don't know. I wouldn't refer to
Sometimes I just go off the rails. I don't know.
I wouldn't
what's
refer
wrong
to
with me.
myself
Anyway.
as the Bonnie to your Clyde, my guy. I wouldn't do that. What's up, man?
It's Sam. It's Sam.
It's me.
Sam, what's up? Say
it's
what's
me.
up to
What's up,
all
what's up,
your.
what's up?
Yo, and the third entity that needs to be introduced is you guys. You guys are
True.
the glue.
Facts.
You are the gel that makes this podcast a podcast. So shout out to you guys.
Yeah.
And yo, I hope you guys have been okay. I hope your weeks have been fulfilling. I hope your days are going well. Sam, how have you been?
I've been all right. I've been cool. I've been chill. I've been decent for the most part. Yeah, not anything much. Just been working, making some slaps.
Hey,
for
making some
artists.
slapperoonies.
Some schlapperoonies and plotting world domination and
Oh, for real, bro.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
valid.
that's been it, man. I'm trying to see if there's anything interesting that occurred in my life. I really need to do more, bro. Like this is getting sad at this point. But if anything comes to mind, I'll say. But then I really just had the most basic work-filled week. Get into the bag.
It be like that sometimes.
It's been like that for a long time. How have you been? What have you been up to?
I've been good. Moved to a new place,
Hey.
which I did mention in the last podcast. That was literally the last time we recorded. I hadn't even been in this space for like an hour. So like I literally just moved in here and recorded
up a
the
mic.
podcast. But yeah, so now I've had like a little bit of like time to. It's been 6 days now.
Nice.
Getting used to this new environment. I've been good. This week I had a studio session with an artist I met actually like at a networking event, and they were like, "Yo, we said we wanted to work together. I have this studio session. Do you want to come like produce, engineer?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And yeah, so that happened. That happened on Friday. That was fun. Went to record at pirate.com. They have this like building, and then it has like multiple like rooms, essentially just like mini studios.
Yeah.
And it's such a dope concept actually. Somebody needs to pull that off like back home. I think it's really sick. And the prices are not too crazy, so it really like helps, but it's a big investment because you have to like essentially invest in studio equipment for God knows how many studios. And I think they're like, I don't know,
You might have
like 40
I think we've tried
rooms in there.
We've tried something.
And each room
like
has
that.
like
Honestly.
2 monitors,
Yeah.
has a MIDI, has the Focusrite DI box or audio interface, sorry. And then obviously microphone, headphones. Yeah, actually it's a big investment, but I think it's nice. Anyway, we recorded a bunch of like so he's called Chad, and he's originally from Jamaica, but he's
Why
lived
did you
in
just say
New York
Jamaica?
for a while.
Why did you do the accent?
I don't know. Was that racist? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to like be like. I just wanted to say it like that. Oh my god.
It's fine. Sorry.
Yeah. Thanks for calling me out and making
always,
it. Like,
always the bunny.
Anyway,
the bunny to your Clyde.
Oh my god. Anyway, yeah. So that was my week. Other than that, yeah, haven't done anything of note at least.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah,
I forgot.
Sam.
I forgot.
Go ahead.
And this is not even for self-promo, but then I really enjoy like remix and stuff. And one of my favorite artists called Andy Mineo dropped a remix pack of like a freestyle he did. So I had like a lot of fun with that one. Now it has triggered a hunger in me now to just remix everything under the sun. So anyway, let me not. I don't want to do self-promo, but yeah.
I love how certain things just trigger you into like a creative like vibe.
It's crazy. No,
For me, it's just listening to and hyperfixating to Back in Office by Odunsi. Now that's all I want to do, Sam. I just want to make.
You've entered a new phase.
Like that.
You've entered a new phase.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Anyway, listen. Yeah. Anyway, I just love being an artist because like it's small things like just to be like they open up your mind and it's like yeah. This is what I'm gonna do now.
Life.
Yes, sir, man. So Sam, I had a very interesting conversation with my dad. So my dad listens to this podcast, and we're just talking about last podcast where we kind of touched on the topic with Steph Capella, and he was just kind of talking about like Rema being in the country and, how international acts get paid significantly way more than Kenyan artists. And prior to that, he's also talked about how international acts kind of, they, for lack of a better word, use, but that's not what it is, but they use our industry as a stepping stone, essentially. And that leaves a lot of our local artists in the dust. And anyway, that's a whole conversation. But it did lead Sam and I into a rabbit hole. Deep. It left us wondering. Actually, Sam posited this question like a few weeks ago, but this was in pre-production, I believe. Was it in pre-production or was it in an actual podcast?
What question?
Oh my God, time. The question of like, how do we make Kenyan artists international artists and stuff like that?
It was pre-production. Trying to figure it out.
I think it was pre-production. Sometimes the lines blur between what's happening.
It's just the way we do things. It makes it difficult to know what's the podcast and what is it.
I know. But maybe if we had pre-production like a day before the actual podcast, we'd be able to like delineate. But that would be so much work.
Yeah.
Anyway, ignore the podcast politics.
Internal,
We went down a rabbit hole. And we wanted to answer the question, how or what steps should we take in order to make international acts out of our Kenyan artists?
Or local acts.
And
like the
that's
tangible
essentially
steps.
The question, Sam.
Yeah, the tangible.
I need you now to
actual steps.
Sorry.
No, I'm saying the tangible actual steps, because we've there's a lot of talk about it, right? We've discussed and we know that it's something that needs to be done. But then, and we had said it last week on the last podcast, in that we actually need to get out there and do the things that would make put us in those positions for us that raise the value of Kenyan acts and they can be earning more and all that business. So now that's a deep dive we went into, is what are the actual steps and things that the artists currently need in this region to get there. So yeah.
So Sam, I need you to tell the people, give them the answer. What's the answer, Sam?
Money. The mafia.
Oh yeah, money is a big one.
Oh yeah. Money is the underlining for all of this. But I mean, there's a couple of things. So it's just first looking at what does an artist need to do in order to expand? Because what we're talking about is just expanding your reach, taking yourself from having increasing your fan base, increasing the number of eyes and ears on you. We're talking about music, so it's ears.
Yeah.
And then getting the artist ingrained in, I don't know if ingrained is the right word, but then getting the artist into other conversations and other cultures, like almost like a cross-cultural creativity, art type
experience.
thing. Yes. So, I mean, we could just run, what do we do? We run through some of the different things that we found out.
Yeah, sure. Maybe we could tackle like, okay, would you say Kenya right now has international acts? Which let me answer my own question. I would say yes. But I feel like everything is still at its like budding phases. So you look at the likes of like Sophia Nzau, Nesmburu, Edaziz, Bien. These are names that you would say are international acts because they TG Black as well, because they exceed our borders per se, and there are many other examples. These are just a few names that are coming to the top of my head. And for me, I feel like what I have figured out is that there are two kinds of like international acts per se. So we have like Bien, who has been a staple in our industry for many, many years. And so he has organically built up a listenership and a following. All through the years, he's also created his sound, modified it, molded it into what it is today, and has a valid or like he has an established kind of product that he has been refining all through the years. And now I feel like he's beginning to really like say, this is my product, and he's going out there to like market it. And now because he's already like fine-tuned it using our industry. Then there's the other subset of artists who kind of almost bypass the Kenyan audience and decide to market themselves outside. And they also gain very much, or they gain success doing that, or they achieve success doing that as well. For example, Sophia Nzau, whose rise can be looked at as being very unorthodox.
Very unorthodox,
because
not a
the way
common thing.
Exactly. Because the way she blew up isn't how it's like it's not like it's very difficult for other artists to replicate what she did, but you can see the method of how she did what she did with artists like Edaziz and Nesmburu. And what method am I talking about? I'm talking about appealing to like that European like audience, Western audience that listens to a lot of like dance, EDM, electronic type of music, and then infusing it with their sound, because in truth it's their sound, but then just like infusing it with African vocals and stuff like that. And it's evident when you go to Sophia Nzau, Nesmburu's or Idaziz's like Spotify profiles and look at like the regions that consume their music, you won't find
Kenya as
African
number
countries
one.
in there.
Yeah.
No, you won't.
Yeah.
But they are successful. You can't take away from the fact that they are successful. So essentially they market outside. Because if you ask any Kenyan like if that is the top of their genre list, yes, there will be Kenyans who say yes, but most Kenyans wouldn't say like, okay, for sure, like number one on my list is like the EDM stuff. Not to say that they are not supportive of those artists. I'm just kind of saying like that's just kind of how it is, and that's fine.
It's their music is for specific times and occasions. Like I was saying earlier, like you wouldn't. I don't know if my Nakageni in the middle of his Tuesday morning show would throw in Mwaki. Not that it's bad, but then that's not what naturally people would gravitate to. Like that kind of sound is specifically for like parties and
I mean, they
festivals
probably
and whatnot.
did
Yeah.
when it was like popping
Maybe,
off,
maybe.
but like I'm sure it has like really like tapered
Yeah,
off
it
right
doesn't
now,
stay in
and
that
they've
spot.
probably reverted into like the more what they usually play, their usual like radio rotation. So I would say those are like kind of like the two ways in which you can kind of go about it. But then there's way more. There's way more, and okay, maybe I can just say
Yeah, we could just go through
maybe
a
we could
couple
do
of
it like
things.
this. Like
Yeah.
yeah, maybe I can just say one thing. We can talk about it. Then we can move on to the next point. So, how to make a Kenyan artist an international superstar? One, obviously, you need to focus on the music. The music has to be good.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, Sam, I think Kenyans make good music. I think it's good enough to market on the international stage. Would you agree with me or no?
Yes, we do. We have good music, and we have. See, the beauty about the Kenyan space is that it's very versatile, and very diverse in terms of sound. So there's more than one sound that can make it to the international stage if we like focus. But yeah, I do agree. I think we have enough to be able to push.
I agree. And I mean, I feel like that point is both a plus and sometimes a negative. So I was reading this WIPO. Is it WIPO? WIPO magazine. And this is an article that was published in 2007. So it's a really old article, but like it's an article talking about the Kenyan music industry and the challenges that it is facing in terms of like comparing to international markets.
Yeah.
And one specific paragraph like stood out to me where they said, despite its vibrant creativity and boom in production, the Kenyan music industry is nowhere near realizing its potential. Nobody knows about Kenyan music, says Susanna Owiyo, and that is because we lack proper networking in terms of distribution. Paradoxically, the very diversity of Kenya's music scene represents a key challenge to developing a sustainable industry. In particular, its linguistic diversity has fragmented the market and made it more difficult for artists to develop unique and recognizable sounds that can serve as a currency for access to mainstream global markets. What do you think about that statement, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. The tagline nobody knows about Kenyan music is actually just it's a harsh reality, but it's very true. In terms of just exposure, I think for us to get there, there has to be a lot more exposure, a lot more again, cross-cultural exposure, and that comes through networking. Obviously, it comes through networking. It comes through being in front of those spaces. So it makes not to go too deep into it, but it makes sense what was said. And that statement again was said by Susan Owiyo, who is a staple in she's been around for a minute. Yeah, very well respected.
But I mean, okay, so how do we get our product to the right spaces? And I feel like it's a blend of PR and marketing.
Yes.
Right? Like targeted marketing and targeted PR. And I'm pretty sure Kenyan artists do this, but I know for a fact that like when Rema, when Thames, when Ira Star release music, like they have dedicated like PR packages for Kenya and even East Africa and different regions where they're like, they're spending money, like a lot of money to do PR in like our spaces. And essentially, I think that's what we need to do. Whenever our big, and I'm pretty sure our artists do it, but maybe we just need to do it in more like we need to do it more frequently. Maybe, yes, I guess. Like where when you're releasing music, it's not just only targeted for a Kenyan audience.
Blogs, the Kenyan.
I feel like you can. Yeah, I think we need to figure out how to reach out to these PR agencies abroad, and they will be open to working with us because at the end of the day, it's business. It's a money thing, right? If they state a price,
Yes.
they're gonna do it. Like they're gonna see value in promoting Kenyan art out there.
And the beauty,
So I think we just really need to.
just on that point, the beauty about that is the more you raise your value in that sense as an artist, you promote yourself and then you gain like more audiences, the more people will want to invest in your art. And so then the money comes like from labels, from whatever brand deals, whatever it is, the money begins to come more. So it almost sorts itself out if you do that well, kind of deal.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, man. And it's even going the extra step into like, investing like in digital ads that are like targeted for these like spaces.
I feel like, to be honest with you, I feel like that's one thing that a lot of people neglect is like actually doing like targeted, apart from now, not just the going on Instagram and like doing like one ad, but then actually going deep into like SEO and trying to figure out how to get yourself in those spaces in like a very, very visible way. We underestimate that, I think, just because it almost, well, for me personally, it almost seems like ads are everywhere, and so we think it doesn't hold as much weight as maybe it should. But then that's like a very important part of getting yourself and your music out there.
Yeah. Facts, man. And I don't know. And I mean, if you look at BN, I think him and his team do this very well. Just like doing PR and marketing targeted to these areas. And specifically, like in Nigeria, I feel like BN is making a concerted effort to kind of appeal to their audience.
Yeah.
I know maybe some Kenyans would not like this, but like even in his music, how he started hopping on more like Afro beats. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like it's diluting his authenticity, or do you think it's his artistic expression? Like you can hop on whatever you want to hop on.
Yeah, there's
or do you think it's just being calculated?
I think there's more ways to look at it than one. If he is trying to get into more markets and becoming an ally of the Nigerian music industry is a very, very positive thing.
Yeah.
So I can see why he would want to jump on that and have pidgin English on his hooks and all that. And so again, that's what we were saying in the beginning is getting yourself into that culture. Now, a lot of people could look at that and say, okay, he's pandering, or he's doing too much. But if it's calculated and it's for a goal, right? And you're not just like leeching, like he's made some good songs. Again, people locally might not necessarily like it as much, but he's made some good songs, and in Nigeria they're rocking with it, and outside there. So it's calculated. It could be seen as calculated. It could be seen as purposeful, but also could be seen as artistic expression. Maybe that's what he wants to do. Maybe he's really. I mean, when Ira Star did a feature with him, she was doing Swahili on the song. So it goes both ways. Yeah.
It does, and I think that's one thing they do very well, like in Nigeria. Like maybe you could call it pandering, but like like when it came to Amapiano, they saw that stuff and they just really
they took Amapiano
into like incorporating,
and put their culture in it, and they made it theirs uniquely.
For real,
they really turned Amapiano into something. They made it pop. It turned out piano
to be
pop.
honest, purists would hate it.
Oh, absolutely hate it. Yeah,
it worked.
That's the thing. It was a strategy, and it worked. And are you going to kill people for being clever and moving in the way they did?
You can't.
No. You can't.
You can't. Exactly. So that's one thing. And then another thing Bian is doing really well is actually making his presence felt. I don't know why this is becoming a analyzing BN's moves podcast.
I actually
anyway,
just had that
but
thought
like,
as to, and just to explain, I think one of the reasons we're using him
yeah,
is
right.
because he's one of the Kenyan artists that we are seeing doing it right in that way, or at least doing a lot of what we're talking about decently, like with it apparently or allegedly with thought and just moving correctly. So we are not just bringing him up
Sam,
to bring him up.
You did bring a good point, although this was admittedly in pre-production, where you said there are other artists who also fly out to different countries to, tour and perform.
Yes.
I know a lot of DJs do it. I know recently, like Lee Boy from Kipepeo, she was out there probably in Europe, like performing and stuff like that. We have the likes of like Elsie Wameo, who's literally on a worldwide tour. So it's not to say, I mean, we've seen also Xenia in LA, like pushing her music as well.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not to say that we don't do it. We're not saying that, Kenyan artists don't do these things. No, we're just kind of pointing out like certain
almost
things.
Just pointing at the maybe the brightest light, the one that everyone can see and knows, sort of, I guess.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I was just saying, BN recently had that trip to Nigeria, and we talked about this last podcast. But yeah, I just typed in BN in Nigeria, and I saw a bunch of interviews and radio things that he did. He was with Joey Aka, and he was like, I've just seen like 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 different, like 6 different interviews with BN on there, essentially introducing himself to the Nigerian audience. And that is very, very important. Like, taking time out of your calendar to fly to some of these key areas and introduce yourself to the audience. And even if, like, one thing that might be difficult is like BN is like viewed as the biggest artist in Kenya, right?
Yes.
But also having that mentality to go out there, not as BN, the biggest artist in Kenya, but like as BN, an artist who makes dope music. Sometimes I feel like people feel like we'll go out to these spaces and we won't be as big or like as highly regarded as we are back home. But that's fine because, genuinely,
you won't.
There is a lot of work to do, so it's fine.
Yeah, your success doesn't translate.
In 5 years,
doesn't translate as easy as you think it does. So you might be the biggest thing around here, and then you go to another country and they're like, "Wait, who?"
But you see, it's fine. Though, because in 5 years, a lot can change. Sam, bro, if there's one thing I've realized, a lot can change in 5 years. And I went down the rabbit hole to kind of look at like Rema and his story and how he first came to perform in Kenya in 2019. And I believe this was the Thrift Social event that was in Alchemist. And I went down I had to go on Instagram and scroll really far down to Thrift Social and just checked out like the performance, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, Rema has come from far. Because you see, that audience or that crowd, you wouldn't say it's big
not the
crowd.
Biggest,
it was a crowd. It was sizable.
I mean, Alchemist was
but
packed,
it's not like what Rema commands today.
Of course not. No, not nearly close. Not nearly close.
And it's things like that, like having that patience and that foresight. Because you see, these guys saw, and I'm pretty sure what they did was they looked at his analytics and they said, okay, Rema is being consumed relatively much in these specific zones in the world. And I'm sure Nairobi was one of them. And therefore they said, bet Nairobi is a place that Rema has to go and perform.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah.
He did it first in 2019, right? Yeah. And this was touted as Rema, and then there was Xenia Manasseh, and I think they called it the Nairobi Kids. That's very interesting. But Valerie Mudhoni was one of them.
Nairobi.
And everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in 2022, again, he came, he performed. I believe Karun also performed and stuff like that. And at that time, significantly bigger artist. And then obviously 2 years later, last week, he performed as well. And now he's like viewed as this really big international act. So these things take time, but in the grand scheme of things, 5 years is not a long time. And it's actually very short if you think about it. Like it's something to be patient for, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like if today, like if we look at a mid-tier artist, right? Today, like they can invest in going to a different place, like I don't know, Cameroon or
And,
something.
you know,
or where do like or Ghana, right?
Yeah.
And like going out there, like I know Kirby, like for example, went to Ghana like a few years back. Like you go to these places and you see what's up. Like you do, like you put together like a show or two, small. It could even be in front of 50 people. Like it doesn't matter if it's really small or whatever, but like what comes out of those things is so valuable, because not only do you get that exposure and like some people in these other markets get to know who you are, but you also have the opportunity to make connections. And sometimes I think we undervalue the connections we make, especially in these small spaces, because you could make a connection with somebody who also is very small. But listen, you don't know where they will be in 5 years. You could go to Ghana, for example, and meet a curator, and they are very small for a very small magazine, and nobody knows who they are. Maybe they're very niche, and you just take a chance and you do an interview with them, and
You
they
don't-
post you on their
never-
socials, and it's small.
Exactly.
Bet.
You never know where
But then
it will go to. Like it's a butterfly effect.
Exactly. But then 5 years later, that person might be the fucking editor for a really dope magazine that's doing big things, or like a Hamatan Rain or something like that, that's doing big things like in Ghana or like in West Africa in general. But you literally, and they'll know you because you gave them some time. Way back when they were really nothing. You know what I mean? So even bumping into like these small people, these small communities is so valuable, because you don't know where those people will be 5 years from now.
Yeah.
So there's real immense value
In that.
in taking a chance,
And there's something-
and like actually physically going to this place.
Yeah, there's something also that you mentioned, and then just going back to the whole ads conversation that we're having, right? You talked about using metrics. Like it's so much easier these days to figure out where your fans are and how to get to them. You know, like going just to look at, like a very simple one, be looking at your the regions that stream your music the most, right? There's a whole bunch of different analytics that you can tap into for that. And then you now play into that. Like you say, okay, I have most of my listeners come from Nakuru. Most of my listeners come from Mombasa. Then you now say, all right, I'm going to do a show or something, put on something for them so that I can, target that area that they're already tuned in. Because without that, it can be a hit and a miss, where you have like fan bases all around, and then you don't necessarily target them. You're almost starting from scratch every single time you put out music, or you're trying to do ads and stuff, and that's taken back. So using analytics is a very underrated way that we could, look what area apart from the local area that we are in listen to me, and who wants my music, who does this apply to, and then you specifically try and get there.
So definitely entrenching yourself in these different like locations based off of metrics and stuff like that, super important into the path of becoming international acts.
Yep.
What else, Sam? What else can one do to become an international act?
So I mean, we
in music anyway.
We talked about it. We covered it slightly, but then it's the connect. You talked about connections, but then connections in terms of now even with the music, like collaborations and appearances and all that stuff. Just making those as a point on its own, I'm making those connections that the physical human social currency connections that keep you in the minds of maybe the people in those spaces, like the biggest artists or the mid-sized artists or whoever it is in the different areas that you're targeting, and going out of your way to reach out to them and sitting.
Collaborating maybe,
yes,
as well.
I realize that music has, as when you're younger starting artist, you have to let go of a lot of pride. Because as an artist, sometimes
pride is the ego is the enemy.
Yes, you have to let go of your ego and do what needs to be done. Because I mean, imagine, I'm pretty sure at this point in 2019, Rema was doing bigger shows in Nigeria. I'm pretty sure, right? He was the numbers that but then they suggested, okay, come to Kenya. It might not be the biggest that you've ever seen, but it's good for you, and he did that. And we've seen that with other more artists, like just going and doing smaller shows, might not necessarily be the biggest in the world, but then smaller shows, and just getting yourself in those spaces, collaborating with artists. I mean, you go to Nigeria and you're not necessarily looking to, or you go to South Africa, you're not necessarily looking to collaborate with Nasty C. You take what you can and just build slowly.
Or Casper.
Yes, build slowly, make the connections that you need to make to get, not necessarily use people, but just I mean, it's use people and not use people, right? And it's not use people in a negative sense where
you're using people, but they're also using you.
Exactly.
So it's like mutual. It's mutually beneficial.
Using. So yes, it's making the connections and ensuring that even your team and your managers, people managing you are really important in this stage as an artist, because it's up to them. Sometimes it's not the artist that keeps those connections going. It's just too much for an artist to maintain all of these things. So it's a manager that picking up the phone call and saying, "Yo, what's going on in your city? What are the shows looking like?" Da 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 da, and just keeping those connections going with different people and trying to build on that and then leverage them as much as they can to benefit both parties. So it's your connections, it's your collaborations, it's doing things that you might seem why am I doing all of this? Why am I going to some random party in Abuja? It's so that you can make an appearance and show yourself,
And I don't want to come off as though Sam and I have, because even us, we have so much to do in our careers. I also get challenged daily when I see how other people move. For example, Maui Moon, he released a project recently, For the Love of R&B, right?
Yep.
And bro, he's from Uganda, right? But these guys, him, La Soul Child, Joshua Baraka, they've taken the time to come to Kenya to see what's popping and work with Kenyan artists. Why haven't I, Afam, done the same thing? As a producer, because that's essentially what he is. He's a producer. Like, if I was forward thinking as well, I would be like, okay, I have these beats, I have these ideas. Why can't I go to Tanzania? And this is low hanging fruit because these are our neighbors. Go to Uganda and see what's popping and work with some of those artists. Like, my stock as a producer would also rise, and that's essentially what people like Maui Moon have done. They're doing it. That's the whole point. Like, connectivity, moving outside of your comfort zone and working with artists there. And then, from that, you gain so many connections, and then you work with artists like all over the place. So I feel like this entire episode is just like, it's just like a huge learning moment for, like, I feel like all of us,
at whatever level.
But yeah,
at whatever level you're at.
At whatever level. Yeah. Because, like, as much as it's like, okay, yes, fly to Nigeria and all that type of stuff, that's expensive, right? So that might be reserved for the people who have the wherewithal to do so. But you can still connect and mingle with these artists, even if you can't physically do some of these things because you don't have the income, or not the income, but the disposable, what do you call it? Well, if you just don't have the means
financial,
to do so, right?
financial backing for all of that, yes.
Because for me, for example, I'll use myself as an example, like, and I need to get back to doing this, but when I started like the TikTok series, and I was shouting out a bunch of like small upcoming artists, like who I found like in Nigeria, for example, like, you know, now you do that, and some of them are very like thankful. They're like, yo, shout out to you for like shouting me out. And then you start talking from there. And all of a sudden I'm talking to a producer or a label in Nigeria and building a connection that way.
Social media has made it.
When I decide to move to go to Nigeria, like I'll have people over there who know me and I know them, right?
You already have a base
like
connection.
You can do small things like that.
Yeah, it's true. And social media has
to kind of build your like network.
Yeah, social media has made it like real easy. I think, you know what I think? I think a lot of artists might feel like they're not 100% relatable in terms of like, maybe I feel like my music is not, like, for example, someone who does music in their mother tongue, whatever language it is.
Imposter syndrome is no more.
Well, that's actually very brilliant. But yeah, someone like, I'm not saying him now, but then there could be artists who are sitting back and saying, listen, man, I don't know if how do I reach out to an artist from South Africa to jump on this song, or an artist from wherever, Cameroon, whatever it is, to jump on this song when I do it. And that's a question that you're asking without looking for an answer. And people are a lot more open to collaborating than we actually think they are. And I realized that on my own. Like, there's people who are okay. I think we form narratives in our brain and run with it without actually confirming it. But yeah, anyway, we can move on to the next.
Your facts. Yeah. So, Sam, moving on. Well, not really, but so Sam and I were trying to answer these questions because they are indeed very heavy questions to answer, and we were like, how do we get these answers? And then it just came up. Why don't we put everything into ChatGPT and see what ChatGPT tells us?
Oh, no, ChatGPT is not real journalism. So, yes, it is.
No, it is. Like, so we put in a query. Give me all the steps that you would take to make a Kenyan artist a successful international music act within 5 years. And this is what ChatGPT had to say. 1, artist development, months 1 to 6. It broke it down into months, Sam. Like, this is insane. But like, okay. So this is what they say. 1, so this is months 1 to 6. Identify a unique selling point and focus on the artist's authentic sound, blah, blah, blah. Music and image refinement, vocal performance and media training, and then branding. And Sam, we've had episodes about artist development, especially like the one we talked about, like in the Soul Gen focused episode and stuff like that. I think artist development is huge.
It's really important.
And 6 months very important. It's a good time.
And it being the first thing,
length of time.
Being the first thing shows how important it is, because you really have to solidify who the artist is and wants to be at the beginning stage before you know what direction you're going in. You can't just say, okay, I'm an artist. Let me just get out of the house and start working. Like, no, you have to figure out in terms of goals and all that, and then just refining yourself. Vocal performance and media training is one thing I don't think people pay attention to, but that's really important in terms of just, fine, you have talent, but you need to be better. I mean, not be better. Sorry, you need to advance it. You need to work on it.
The thing that they say for me that stands out the most is identify a unique selling point. Yeah. That's so key in a industry or in a time when everything is oversaturated. You need to find a way to stand out. And I think, yes, ChatGPT is spot on. Moving forward, number 2, build a solid local fan base, and you should do this between months 1 to 12. So essentially in the first year, this is what you should be doing. And they say, release quality music, Media outreach.
Wait,
So this is
wait, before you go
securing
on, before you
interviews
go
and
on,
features.
before you go on, it said release
Go
quality
ahead.
music, release singles or EPs consistently, not albums. Not
3 C's, back to the 3
Yeah.
C's. And yes, not albums, please. Please. There's this focus
people
on
want to pop
albums
out.
in
Hey
our
guys,
industry. And let me tell you,
I'm an artist, and then all of a sudden it's an album. It's like, all right, big dog, like, come on.
The problem with albums is if you're a smaller artist, it's hard to capture people's attention. And have them listen to an entire album if they don't know you.
It's harder.
You have to build that trust.
It's harder for an album to
with your
travel.
fan base.
It's harder for an album to travel as a body of work than for a single to. It's much easier to work a single than it is to work an album.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so they say release quality music, media outreach, secure interviews and features. Reach out to Radio 254 or something. Radio 254, literally, they will interview you if you ask. And you're Kenyan, of course. Live performance, performing at popular venues, blah, blah, blah. Digital marketing, leverage social media, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, to grow the artist's local following. What do you think? I think this is so far.
It's solid.
This is a very solid list.
Solid and doable.
Of things that you should do.
Yeah, it's solid and it's doable. It's not
doable.
A lot of,
Exactly.
There's plenty of artists who are already doing this. Yeah. So we're going to months 6 to 18. Months 6 to 18. So digital. Yeah. The next point is the digital strategy and global awareness. So leveraging the streaming platforms, collaborating with international artists, which we talked about recently, YouTube and social media campaigns, and then search engine optimization, SEO, and targeted ads. Again, using Google social media ads to target international fans, especially in markets where Afrobeats, reggae, and Afrofusion are popular. This is what ChatGPT thinks the Kenyan
This is essentially what we said earlier in the podcast.
Yes, yeah.
It's crazy, like targeting. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. So, and then also like with leveraging streaming platforms, which is really important because streaming has become the biggest way that people consume music nowadays on their own individually. So targeting playlists on global platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, of course, their local ones, Boomplay and the rest. Then working on getting the artists featured in African and global playlists, e.g. Afrobeats and world music. So yeah, we've talked about streaming and playlisting and what that does. And it's just really looking for ways to be in those spaces, those playlists and all of that, and get in consideration. It all starts from the music and just keeps going forward. Yeah.
So for me, I would say this step is where like the Maya Molos and the Zoe Kengochas are doing right now, where you're on colors, you're also collaborating with like producers in different countries. Like, for example, both of them were on Maui Moon's project. Things like that, collaborations. So this is between 6 months, 6 and 18. So 1.5 years, you're thinking about just being a collaborator. It might not even bring a lot of revenue in, but you're working with people. Yeah. Strategically, of course. No, I'm not saying you just work with everybody, but like strategically try and collaborate.
Collaborations that make sense.
Number 4. Yeah. Number 4, it's the same thing. Network and industry relationships, months 12 to 24. So this is what you should do within 2 years. International collaborations. And by international, we're not talking about collaborating with somebody in Brazil. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even in Tanzania, Uganda, South Africa, Nigeria, things like that.
Yeah.
Attend international music festivals. That's interesting. PR and media features. Hire a PR team for international press coverage. Label/distributor partnerships. Approach global music labels or distributors for deals that provide access to international resources while maintaining creative control. Now, this is very important because here, number 4 is where we see the success that TG Black has. TG Black is distributed by... Well, and this is information you can find if you just like check her Spotify. So it's public information. You'll notice like the people who are distributing her music aren't like necessarily from Kenya. So that relationship is super strong because they open you up to an entire like network of the industry. You know what I mean? Like you're not just like hyper local, but they also do like accommodate for your local distribution needs. And I know a lot of artists who use this model to kind of help increase the reach of their music. Now, is it necessarily easy to get like an international distribution service to take you on as a client? I wouldn't say it is, but it's doable. And I know artists who've done this before. Other artists who've like distributed with like distribution companies in the UK for like R&B projects and stuff like that, and it's greatly put them on.
Yeah.
So like distributions labels like Platoon, for example. These are services that will be open. Another example, Philip Koth, like and his whole partnership with Ditto Music, right? Ditto Music is also based in the UK, and that's what they use to distribute a lot of these drill artists. Like,
Yeah, Philip,
it's
he's
doable. It can
for
be
those who don't know,
figured
he's a Brooklyn Boys manager and a few other artists.
You're absolutely right. So, networking and developing these industry relationships, super, super, super key.
Yeah.
I also saw it in Philo another day when we were at Kirby's like thing, and there were those videographers from South Africa, and Philo took an interest in networking with them. Shit like that, you know what I mean? Like just being open to working with so many
The
different
music
people.
industry is a communal, it's a community that we have to tap into. But yeah, next step, expand to diaspora communities. That's like a year and a half and forward. So you can target key markets. Then that's now you get into touring, different shows around, collaborations with African artists abroad, and then leverage Afrobeat and world music waves. Of course, now this is ChatGPT suggesting what you can do. It doesn't have to move exactly like this, but this is just like a really good framework to guide what you're doing. Yeah, focusing the target key markets, focus on Kenyan and African diaspora communities in key cities. Then touring, organize small international tours in Africa, Europe, and the US, targeting cities with large Africa diasporas, which is pretty cool. I mean, you could do that. Now, ego would tell an artist that you have to have the biggest show in the world when you're touring, and it has to, of course, now it has to make sense financially. And sometimes you would take losses, but you would gain in terms of reach and exposure. So, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yes, and I wanted just to add, like we've seen a bunch of artists like at least attempt. No, not attempt. We've seen artists do this. I know Meja performs in front of the diaspora a lot. Nyashinsky and who was he carrying along with him? Was
Savara.
it like Xenia?
He was going out with Savara.
Who else? Was it
I think
Savara. It wasn't Xenia. But
I think
Savara,
it was Joshua Baraka, if I'm not wrong. Or was that a different show?
Maybe. I can't remember.
Anyway,
but whenever you hear that they are going to perform in America, it's typically not going to be in front of an American audience. It's going to be in front of a diaspora-led audience. And that's what ChatGPT is saying you should do. And that's what a lot of them do. Sauti Sol have been on tour, like, and yes, within that diaspora, obviously, the Kenyans are going to come with like their African friends or one or two friends they have made out there. And that's slowly how the audience starts to like grow.
Yeah. And again,
number 6.
Again, we're just mentioning the names that I guess everyone knows. There's much more. There are many other people. Like I know, for example, Mutore was out there recently doing a show. I want to say Germany, if I'm not wrong. I don't want to get that wrong. But then, so there's many artists who are doing this. It's just we're highlighting.
As well.
Yeah, we're just highlighting, I guess, some of the bigger names just to show you. Sorry, you were saying?
Valerie Mudhoni was in Tanzania as well, like performing. So, bro, people are out here like, trying to put these things into practice. But yeah, I was saying number 6, monetization and business strategy. This is months 24 to 48. So now this is between 2 and 4 years. They're saying merchandising, launch branded merchandise and sell through digital platforms, licensing opportunities, licensing music for use in film, TV, etc., endorsements, and content monetization. And obviously through following this like framework, by the time you're reaching here, you'll have built enough leverage to appeal to some of these brands and some of these TV shows that would want to license your music. So I think that's a very sensible pathway.
True.
Number 7.
Go mainstream internationally. That's months 36 to 60. Now, here's where you have your major collaborations, securing your collaborations with like the top global artists in the US, the UK, and other major music markets. Then the festival circuit, perform at global festivals, Coachella, Lollapalooza. It's Lola, I thought it was Lollapalooza. Lollapalooza, Glastonbury, and the like.
It's pronounced Lollapalooza. Yeah. Right.
And then major... Wait, what did I say? Okay, no. Next is, the global tour. Launch a full international tour covering North America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. These tours tend to be longer and just, sometimes it's a lot more work. And then major label deal. Now, this is not necessarily in the artist's control, but then it's part of it. Negotiate with a major label.
But also,
go ahead.
This might be the only part that I disagree with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that is still the old kind of model.
Yes.
I think now you don't necessarily need
to have a label deal,
work with a major label.
Distribution,
but
maybe.
You may need to find, better distribution and stuff like that. Essentially, look for the entities offering these as services, so better distribution, better publishing. You don't necessarily have to go for the major labels per se.
Yeah.
Even the major labels themselves are outsourcing some of these things now. So but so now this is where now we see the likes of Thames and with Future and Drake, or Ira Star, like with Giveon and everything, Rema with Pink Panthers and all those, like this is where they are at now, through these collaborations and stuff like that, because the collaborations give you sort of like, bro, they open you up to a whole entire market.
Yes.
It gives you
some
the
legitimacy,
stamp of approval, the credibility. Yes, exactly.
Sure.
That's what I was looking for. And so people think, oh, you're performing a song with Pink Panthers, you're on that level, or you're doing a song with you're on a song with Future, then you must be on that level. You know what I mean? So and then also the strategy they do here a lot is putting you in these spaces where that are mainstream. So going for things like the Met Gala or like Fashion Week, or all these type of things that you can see them actively doing them with like Ira or like Rema. Burna Boy has been doing them for years now. Wizkid has also been doing it for years now. Tyler is what, she's on stream with Kai Cenat and everything. Like, you're now just like on mainstream media platforms.
That's actually that's actually part of the sort of the last stage that you give, which is year 5+, which is the sustain and the scaling phase.
Sorry.
The regular global releases, releasing more albums and singles that appeal more to the global market, with strong PR and a digital push. Again, we've seen that with a lot of these artists who've blown up from the African scene. They're everywhere. Next one will be awards and recognition, aiming for nominations and wins at international award shows, Grammys, BETs, and the rest. And then engaging a global fan base, continue to leverage social media, digital platforms to sustain and grow your international audience. And then finally, diversify your revenue streams, expand into other entertainment sectors, acting, entrepreneurship. Here's where you see people starting like fashion brands and whatnot, and then like doing different things in order to bring in more money and push your brand into different spaces, not just maintain it within the music scene, but then now doing different things. So, yeah, that's ChatGPT's.
Shout out to ChatGPT
for having the knowledge on how to take a Kenyan artist from.
This episode is brought to you by AI. Sorry.
Yes, this episode is brought to you by ChatGPT. Taking a Kenyan artist, and it's very doable. Of course, some caveats are. Some disclaimers are
money.
Yeah, okay. Actually, do you want? Because we also tried to find out what how much this would all take from ChatGPT. Do you want to scare some people?
So the estimated total cost over 5 years, Sam, they're saying the low range is $350,000 and the high range is $1.5 million. But
yeah.
It says key variables, scale. The cost varies depending on the scale of international marketing.
Yeah.
2, collaborations. High profile features can be very expensive, but might fast track international success. 3, geographical focus. Targeting specific global markets will require tailored budgets, especially for touring. But 4, and this is most important, not to scare anyone away, is a DIY approach. Some steps can be done in-house at a lower cost.
Yes.
So this not to say that that's how much you need to spend. It's possible to afford doing some of these things like in-house, with also using your relationships.
Yeah. Sometimes it might take longer to do all of this. Sometimes it might take shorter. It just depends on. And another aspect of this is, again, you don't know what step or what relationships or what ad you do that would like trigger some of these things faster. Like we really don't have any control over it. Or what song blows up. The song that fans gravitate to, that could actually accelerate you a lot faster through some of these steps than you would if you didn't have that song. So, leave some of it up to chance. I guess it's just do your best to maintain, some sort of structure in terms of your goals and make sure that you and your team are aligned.
The momentum.
Yeah. And then make sure everyone is aligned and everyone is working towards the same thing. Yeah, man, that's...
And there you have it, Sam. I think we've
cracked the code.
In our own way, we've tried. I think we've cracked the code.
We've cracked the code, man. Giving away the source
hilarious.
for free.
But
the
we've
source
tried
for
our
free
best.
that we got from Chat. Do you think a journalist using ChatGPT, not to say that we're all the way journalists, but then using ChatGPT do you think that's legitimate?
No, but we used it to supplement our points because we used it at the end to kind of see.
That's a fact.
Yeah, exactly.
We already had the knowledge.
So it's not like we just used their points.
Yeah, that's true.
There we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we tried to kind of answer the question of how to make a Kenyan artist an international act. And we did our best. Honestly, we did our best.
Pat on the back.
All this just comes from a place of... Yeah. And all this just comes from a place of us wanting our artists to win, because ultimately that's the goal. You know?
Like, you don't know how bad I want to see like international artists like we see with so many of the other different countries. I want to see Kenyan acts everywhere, bro. I want saturation, because we've done well in many different areas. There's no reason why we shouldn't do well in music, and we have such
imagine how nice
it'll
it'll be to see like Njerai hanging out with, or in a Kaisenat stream. I don't know how that looks, but like, yo.
Yeah, we don't know how that looks because we've not
mainstream.
seen pictures of that kind of thing, but it's entirely doable. It's possible. And Njerai and Kaisenat collab will be crazy. I'd like to see that.
Wouldn't it, man?
Yeah.
Listen, Kaisenat, if you're listening, he's not listening.
Here you go again.
Yeah.
Kaisenat, listen if you're listening to us.
Speaking of listening, Sam, what did you listen to this week?
Music makes me lose control. Yes.
I knew you were gonna do that. I knew you were gonna do that,
didn't.
bro. I just all right. Yes, I did.
Cool. Yeah. So let me start with we had mentioned it earlier when we were talking. You mentioned For the Love of R&B Volume 1 by Maui Moon. And I'm bringing it up because it had a bunch of Kenyan artists on there. Zoe Kangocha, Maya Omolo is on there. I think
Yes,
Lukorito is
Yes,
on there too. So
yes, sir.
we've got that going. Chimano dropped a joint called Fashion. It's good to see him releasing some music produced by Afro Lectra, who has done a bunch of other songs that I know about, but then I can't name them right now. Yes, let's see who else. Brandy Maina drops a song called Tango. That was cool. Kahora teams up. Ziki teams up with Sofian Zhao for a song called Kahora. That's also pretty decent. Guardian Angel with Shukrani. Steph Capella, Rick Miruka, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, with a song called Cheesy. Dang, what else? Just running through some of the releases. Do you want to... Oh, Mr. Frank White, we played him a few weeks ago, dropped a 2-pack with Davion, if I'm pronouncing it right. It's called M.A. My Lover's Rock. So that's also pretty cool. I'm just interested in Mr. Frank White and the music he's creating now. Like, I just be listening to everything he does. It's very interesting for me. What did you listen to? I don't want to...
Outside of that, I listened to Life of the Party by Sora, Kafi, and Slumberland. That was cool. Listened to Uko Piwa, essentially Uko Wapi, by Nigga Sean, Sosa the Prodigy, and Lil Maina. Produced by Le Mario. That beat was insane.
Yeah.
That beat was fire. That was that. In terms of beats, that's one of the better beats this week. But there was one beat that was just better than the rest, in my opinion. And that was the beat to Masaya Bia by Mbidi. I can't lie. I have to give him his props right now. King Fizzle, bro. King Fizzle killed it. For me, bro, that song is just so good. I think Masaya Bia might be my favorite Mbithi song. That's out. Like that's for me. It's just like everything just came together. The beat, his rapping, like
here's some of the best rapping I've heard from him too.
Phenomenal.
It's very cool. Very cool. The flows and everything.
I love.
He was rapping with conviction about partying.
He is. The last one I listened to was Twelly G produced or released a song called Never Stop.
Yeah.
I would assume he's like, I don't know if he moved to Japan or something. Anyway, he released a song with Vox and Osamui Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really dope to see Twelly and then also rapping a little bit in Japanese and stuff like that. That was very
that's
interesting.
that cross-cultural.
Talking about doing collabs.
Yeah. That's that cross-cultural. That we were talking about. Yeah, getting into the Japanese community.
Yeah. I think that's what I listened to, Sam.
Yeah, just to name a couple of projects. So Love Draft by Ken Aswani dropped. He features Modest Jabari on there. And then another project called A Man of Nyari by Brian Sigu. I haven't gotten to that, but I will get to it. I'll listen to it again. And then Costa Ojwang released Imposter Syndrome No More, which is a very, very, very apt title for a lot of artists, including myself. Imposter Syndrome, not Syndrome. Syndrome No More by Costa Ojwang. This is his second album, if I'm not wrong. Let me just get that right. Yes, his second project. His first one was when he was released in 2022. Yeah, so I gave this a listen. Of course, I need to go back and listen to it again, but I enjoyed it off the first listen. I enjoyed a couple of songs. Dance with Ambassa Mandela was pretty cool. I like that. I liked Wabiru. That was dope too. Iyana was also one of my favorites. Jathum and Traveler. And then Purpose with Mordecai Dex. I really like Mordecai Dex, man. I like his vocals. I like what he does. Fly Away also with Quiz, which was interesting. Yeah, man, I need to go back and sit down with this project, but I enjoyed it. I enjoy Costa Ojwang's music. He's becoming one of my favorite Kenyan artists. Yeah, did you get time to breeze?
Yeah, so no, I skimmed through a little bit of the songs,
Yeah.
but Costa Ojwang is fire. He's multi-talented.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I'll never forget about the time I walked into a art installation exhibition, in Village Market, and I saw his name in some of the paintings. I was like, how diverse is this guy? Anyway, yeah.
It's very cool. It's very cool.
Shout out to Costa.
Shout out to Costa. I think we could play since you always ask me, Afam, if you would allow me. I think we could play a song off this project. I don't know where to go. I guess we could go Jathum. He features Savara on there. This is definitely one of those. I think the song is going to go. It just sounds like it's primed for radio. So I think if we could do that. So Costa Ojwang from his album Imposter Syndrome
No More.
Here is Here is Jathum featuring Savara.
Jathum jakindandi Thumu winjoni Oriyo Thumu weroni Jathum jakindandi Thumu mieloni Oriyo Thumu weroni Chu Ngama winja kichunge lokacha Walosie Kinena kichunge lokacha wakuthie Biwalo siase kilo sekena Tulewe mazungumuzo Majadiliano maongezi Wasiliano Utatuzi wa mizozo Nishikili nikikosa usinifinyilie Nihudumie mwenzangu nitakuhudumia Unilishe nikipata mimi nitakulisha Kimar pile kiyenge batata bendo winjo maber Kiri wagore wagari mana kue wa medire Oponya oro koyo nai Oriyo Jathum jakindandi Thumu winjoni Oriyo Thumu weroni Jathum jakindandi Thumu mieloni Oriyo Thumu weroni I've been around the world na pigamboka na saka kitu I've been to Rotterdam, Sainiko, Manchester, I'm in and out of town to the lakey side, met the fisherman, Costa wada window, umia pesa milioni nane. Ooh, I've been catching flies and I'm running back to you. I've been longing for the days I'll spend with you. Let the music take away. All I'm holding is your waist. Let me love you right away. It's your day, it's your game. Baby, let me drive in your lane. When the drum plays at the home stage, miela miela wasemoke. When the crowd is charging on and the people sing along, everybody dancing on and the people sing along. Ooh, Jathum jakindandi, Thumu winjoni, Oriyo, Thumu weroni, Jathum jakindandi, Thumu mieloni, Oriyo, Thumu
Costa Ojwang, Savara with Jathum from his, it's a sophomore album, right? The second one's a sophomore. Imposter Syndrome, No More. It's a really cool
Indeed.
song. Yeah. Oh, man.
Yes, sir,
That's
man.
that.
And that, bro, that's episode 98 of the 30% podcast. Like I like to say at the end of every podcast, please, guys, actually, just listen to this podcast. I feel like this was a really this was a good, I enjoyed this conversation.
You know what this was? You know, this podcast was.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I know you're about to get into it. This podcast was like a very, very lengthy version of the 3 C's. It's essentially what this podcast was.
Actually, yes, it was. And what are the 3 C's, you ask, if this is your first time listening to this podcast? Well, I will tell you. The 3 C's are things that I concocted in my mind. See, I used the C word there. And one of them is consistency. If you're an artist listening to this podcast, I implore you to be consistent with your music releases. Like I always say, I'm not asking you to release music every week or every 2 weeks or every month. But if you decide you're going to release a single every 2 months or an EP every 6 months, stick to that and you'll begin to see success. The other C is confidence, man. As an artist, I know how vulnerable putting your art out there exposes, it leaves you like it's a very vulnerable experience because you're putting your art there and you're leaving yourself up to people saying, oh, this is cringe, or oh, this is not my vibe, or oh, this is amazing. It sucks. It's a sucky feeling, just leaving yourself open to people's perception of you, but you have to be confident. You have to exude that aura of my music is amazing, and there will be people who will engulf or just, they'll feel that energy and it'll translate well. And lastly, craft. Always work on your craft. This is the part that even I need to take into I need to take my own advice essentially, because every day you need to work towards becoming better in your field, whether it's watching music tutorials or reading an article about how to better market your music and stuff like that. Do something small, even if you're reading a paragraph of how to better publish or license your music, or if you're just watching a tutorial on how best to harmonize your when you're recording, or the best way or the best technique to mix your vocals. I don't know, whatever it is, try do that every day. And you don't have to take a long time. You could even just take 5 minutes. And if you do that every day, everything will add up and you will be successful. Sam.
Yep. I was just thinking, someone like a starting artist who listens to the blueprint for growing yourself as an artist and becoming an intentional artist could think that that's a very, very difficult thing to do, but you just give the source right now as you are ending the 3 C's is set small goals, set achievable goals that contribute to the whole picture, and work on achieving those small goals. Don't always look at don't always use the bigger base, the main goal to fuel your own self. That could be the overarching theme of what you're trying to do. But then set small goals, very achievable, very, very, very concise, and then work on those and achieve those ones. Then set more goals. Achieve those and set more goals, and then before you know it, you'll be exactly where you want to be. And you might not have thought that you could make it, but you can. So yeah, man, it's doable. We need to see a lot more artists be conscious about getting to these places and these spots. And yeah, go forth and create.
You sound like at the end of church, Catholic church, how they usually say, go forth, They usually say that
Go
at the
forth.
end.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Go forth and create.
guys, thank you so much for listening to this podcast.
Yappers.
This was episode 98, and we shall see you for the
99th
99th episode.
iteration.
We out.